Okay, we're recording this so that we'll be able to put it online and we can send you all the link and you can always refer back to it. So in order for you to ask questions of Holly, and we definitely encourage you to do so, you can just go into the chat window, type out a question, and Holly and I are we'll both monitor it, and we will do our very best to get to all of your questions. All right, everyone? Okay, Holly, do you want me to spotlight you, or are you?
That's fine. Sure.
Okay, I'm going to spotlight Holly so everyone can spotlight. Okay, there's Holly.
Good morning, or is
Good
it
afternoon?
It's good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Andrea. As Andrea said, I'm Holly Schult. I'm with BCB Bank, and the presentation I have today is on choosing a financial caregiver. This is a presentation that was put together by the American Bankers Association. It's part of a series of workshops dealing with financial topics that are important to our greater generation, such as identifying and avoiding scams, and this choosing a financial caregiver. So when you think of a caregiver, most people think of a medical caregiver. Most people don't always think of a financial caregiver, and it can be just as important as a physical caregiver. And when I say, what actually is a financial caregiver, and how do you choose the right person for that, what their responsibilities would be, and can you change your caregiver if you don't like the person that you've chosen? And we're not talking today about investment advisors or your banker. We're talking about someone who, in the event you become ill or you cannot take care of making sure your bills get paid, it's somebody who can help you with that. It's a collaborative relationship. It's never a control relationship. It never should be. And if it ever becomes a controlling environment, it should stop. So the relationship evolves as your needs change. It might just be assistance with everyday financial decisions, but it could become more than that should a person become ill or not able to make the appropriate decisions for themselves. I can't see anybody's face because everybody's camera's off, but I'm just going to keep going and hope that if you have any questions, you'll pop up with a question in the chat. So a lot of times people don't believe that they need a financial caregiver. And when I do these presentations, I always kind of relate to personal experiences. So several years ago, my own mom became ill, and she didn't have anything in place. And she was in the hospital for over a week, and some of her bills could not get paid. So after she got out of the hospital, we had a conversation about, should this happen again, we need to make sure that we can take care of that. And that's when we went forward with a financial caregiver. And I see that a question about being who's best suited, we're going to get into that a little further into the presentation. First, we're going to talk about why you would think you would need someone and what actually is the definition of a financial caregiver. So a financial caregiver can help you with your everyday bills. Sometimes I forget that I have something due, especially if I'm still receiving paper mail. There's a ways to set up automatic payments for some of the regular bills, but it's also a good way to help you identify potential fraud. So you may not think something is fraud, but somebody else who's looking at it with a different set of eyes may be aware of a scam that's out there, because there are so many scams. Having someone in place to handle your affairs, if you can't, can be vital. So instead of having bills that are paid late because you've become ill, your bills will still get paid on time. Okay. Do we have any questions at this point? I don't see anything. Okay. The role, a better definition of a financial caregiver, they can help you with day-to-day finances, and they can help you plan for your future needs. Again, we're not talking about an investment advisor. We're just talking about day-to-day, everyday expenses. They can help you identify benefits that you might be eligible for, such as helping to pay for prescription drugs with discount cards, reduced fares for some public programs. They're going to be vigilant about protecting you. Not necessarily, doesn't necessarily have to be a family member, but it's somebody who's going to be vigilant in protecting you, keeping the unknown scammers away. And they can also be part of your relationship with your bank and your financial advisor, should you choose to do that.
You know what, Holly, can I ask a question just based
Sure.
on what you just said? Is your relationship with whomever you choose as your financial advisor, is this a legally binding relationship or just, okay, I'll do it for you?
It can be. There's different types of relationships, which is also for a little bit further in the presentation,
Okay.
whether it's an informal relationship or a formal relationship.
Okay, good.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So who is a good choice to be a financial advisor? First of all, it has to be someone you know well and you trust implicitly. Someone with the knowledge and common sense to do things right. So someone who maybe is a little bit more savvy with financial matters than you might be. And someone who can interact effectively with your family members if it's not a family member you've chosen. So those characteristics are trustworthy, knowledgeable, effective, and in many cases, it should be someone younger than you so that they could help and continue through as you get older and maybe you're not able to continue taking care of things on your own. You want that person's relationship to grow with you. And then how do you find the right person? Now, most people will say, my children, my grandchildren, my niece, my nephew. It very well may be that person. It could sometimes just be a close friend or a child of a close friend. So I am also a financial caregiver for my best friend's mother. She is an only child and her mother did not want to put that added burden on her. So I help her with that. She trusts me and I assist her with those matters. And that's actually in a formal agreement because I'm not a family member. And it's just a way that I'm protected and she's protected. So how do you choose that? What kind of signs do you look for? You can think somebody's trustworthy. You could think somebody is knowledgeable. Really, the only way to judge is how people are going to act going forward is by how they've handled their own financial past. You wouldn't want to select somebody who has struggled financially in their own history to help you with your financial matters. It's probably going to be a different level of financial concerns between your caregiver and yourself. So it's how carefully they manage their finances are going to be a clear indication about how they're going to manage yours. Your banker and other financial advisors, such as an investment advisor or an accountant or even an attorney, can help you come up with some questions that you want to ask a potential financial caregiver. So, and it doesn't have to be, oh, I've decided that my grandson, John, is going to be my financial caregiver, and then you hand everything over. It can be a very gradual process as you build trust to make sure that John has the ability to do what you're hoping he can do for you. Just as important as who is a good choice, who is a poor choice. So anybody who intimidates you or makes you uneasy, always follow your gut. Your gut cannot go wrong. If you don't feel that the person is being completely honest, or if they're making you uncomfortable, they're not the right choice. Someone who has financial, legal, or serious health problems, they're probably not going to be the right choice, because in dealing with your finances, they may be helping themselves to fix their own problems. And so anybody who wants to control or limit your relationships with other people. So if there's someone who is deciding who you can see and who you can't see and who you visit and who you tell information to, that is way too controlling and should not be the right person. Your discussion of your personal financial matters is entirely up to you, and nobody else should tell you how to do it or who to do it with. There seems to be a trend toward giving financial authority to a home health aide. Those are not necessarily the best choices, because there's already a financial agreement between you. That person is getting paid to take care of you physically. You shouldn't be giving them the added responsibility or the added access to your finances. Any questions? Again, I can't see faces, so I don't know.
No, Holly, so far, I think everyone is pretty good, but I'll ask a question. So when you choose your financial caregiver, and so what are the kinds of information that they need to have access to?
Well, that is also entirely up to you. So this is where we get into whether it's a formal relationship or an informal relationship. So an informal relationship would just be you going to your bank and telling your banker that I want a note on my account that my daughter Holly, it can have information and can call to get balances and recent transactions. Doesn't necessarily mean she can be a signer.
Okay.
But I authorize my daughter Holly to get information. A formal agreement would be in the sense of, an example is a power of attorney. A formal power of attorney, where there are versions of it that you can find at the library. You can Google a generic form on the computer, or you can go as far as to have an attorney help you draw one up. Powers of attorney list specific things that person can do for you. So again, my own example, I have powers of attorney for my mother that tells exactly what I can access and what I can't. So I have the right to transact on her bank accounts. I have the right to transact on her investment funds, but I do not have the right to sell her house.
Okay. So you can be as specific as you want to be.
Correct.
Okay.
You can itemize those responsibilities. Most generic powers of attorney that you'll find on the internet, you can create one like LegalZoom. Will have something and it's asking you a series of questions and you can check off boxes. Yes, I want the person to do this. No, you don't check off the box for the house, or you don't check off the box for retirement funds. You can select what they can and cannot do.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
An even more formal agreement would be a living trust, where you're actually putting specific assets into a trust. You are the grantor because it's your property, it's your decision, and you're naming a trustee. And that trust agreement identifies the assets that person can access and act on your behalf for. That's a little bit different than a power of attorney. It's a much more formal agreement, and you would need the advice of an attorney to create those. And that would be if you have some greater assets that you're looking to protect. Upon your death, powers of attorney stop. They're no longer valid. Upon your death, a trust then gets distributed to who you've named as beneficiaries in the trust. So there's a lot of different legalities involved in how informal or formal you want to make the arrangement. I strongly suggest formal arrangements, such as powers of attorney and trusts, because those are legally binding and the person you name has a fiduciary responsibility to act in your best interest. If it's just somebody you're adding to your account as a joint signer, they can take the money and there's no legal ramification for them doing so. You authorize them to be joint on your account, they can spend the money. Like I said, it's an evolving relationship. You could start out with simple questions with someone just to see how they come back for you. You can ask them a simple advice on, could you please look into some CD rates for me and give me some comparisons and see how they come back and how much research they do for you. You can ask them to look into a bank that doesn't charge monthly fees on my checking account and see how they come back with that information. How much research are they really doing? Are they looking into your best interests? Those are simple questions that you can ask. You can always ask the advice, again, of people in the financial industry, such as an accountant or your banker. And I know some banks have, not all banks have the ability to have customer service interactions at a lengthy time. Not all the branches are open, but develop a relationship with your banker and they are trusted resources for this type of information. Is there any questions again at this point? No? So there are limits when you have an informal relationship, when you have an informal arrangement. That person doesn't have any authority to handle your finances if you are incapacitated. And there's no fiduciary responsibility to act on your best behalf. So if you're just giving someone the authority to access the information on your accounts, that's what an informal relationship is. They can't help you pay your bills, write checks, go online to pay your bills through bill pay without being an authorized, more formal responsibility. The power of attorney and trustees on living trusts, those are, again, like I said, written, it's documented. Those trusts are usually created by an attorney who you can choose. You choose the person. Don't let your financial caregiver choose the attorney who's creating these agreements. There's also agreements, formal agreements specific to Social Security benefits. That would be a Social Security representative payee. And there's also to veterans, the Veterans Affairs Fiduciary, very specific to veterans benefits. Those don't help with your other finances, but they can be just specific to those benefits that you're receiving. Have any of you granted powers of attorney to a family member or a spouse or a friend that hasn't been in your best interest, or anybody have any feedback on what they have done to this point on selecting a financial caregiver?
You can type a message for Holly in the chat, or if you want to turn on your camera so Holly can see you, you can certainly do that too. If anybody wants to answer the question for Holly. I think they're all shy.
Yeah, everybody's being shy, which is going to make this a shorter presentation. So a lot of people also think that joint accounts are the answer to the problem. So there's pros and cons to that. So why not a joint account? That enables the joint account holder to pay bills and conduct other bank and brokerage business that they're the joint holder on, but it also gives them access to your funds without any means for you to dispute that. So they can empty your account. They can get a debit card and go on a shopping spree. A joint account could complicate estate planning later. So if you have somebody as a joint member on your bank account, joint bank accounts are right of survivorship. So if you pass away and you have a beneficiary, beneficiaries don't get that until the joint party is also no longer there. Joint party supersedes beneficiaries on your accounts. So there are potentially some dangerous risks with having just a joint party on your checking accounts without a formal agreement. Are there risks involved in having a financial caregiver? Yes, there's risks with almost anything you do in life, correct? But the benefits do outweigh the risks. So financial caregiving is essential to protecting your assets. Having someone to, as you get older, is sometimes the only way to protect your assets. Delaying selecting someone or delaying thinking about it could make you more vulnerable, especially in this day and age when we have a pandemic and people were getting sicker quicker and did not have things lined up to help pay bills or take care of finances. And waiting too long can force the courts to intercede. So if you don't have somebody selected and you do become incapacitated, it goes to the courts. And then the courts, who do not know anything about you, are going to have to make the decisions for you. And that may not be in your best interest or by your choice. So I don't see any questions in the question box.
No, I don't either. Well, participants, this is going to be one of your last opportunities to ask Holly a question. So if you've got a question, please ask. Again, if you want to turn on your cameras, you can do that.
Okay. The only other thing I have here that I wanted to share was there are other organizations other than the bank that you can go to and you might be more familiar with to get some advice for financial caregiving. AARP has a financial caregiver information website. The Administration for Community Living, also, which is www.act.org. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has financial caregiver information. National Adult Protective Services has information on financial exploitation and how to report if somebody's been exploited financially. National Council on Aging and Social Security Administration, although I know Social Security Administration really highlights specifically to your Social Security benefits with a representative payee. And U.S. Department of Justice, there's always information there as well that can help you with reporting certain abuses or getting advice going forward. And that's really all I have today. Oh, Sylvia. I just saw Sylvia pop up. Andrea, is there a way to unmute Sylvia? Because I think she's speaking and I can't hear her.
I'm asking her to unmute right now.
Oh, there she goes.
Okay. I'm still not too familiar with the Zooms. That's why I didn't really say anything first. And but basically, what is the financial caregiver getting out of it, or how much should you compensate them if it's not a family member? Is there anything?
I don't know that a financial caregiver necessarily is someone I don't know that you're going to choose somebody that is wanting to get compensated, unless your assets are very high level assets, that you are picking somebody that, like an accountant and a CPA, that have set fees. Financial caregivers, I would question anybody who says, yeah, if you pay me $100 a month, I'll be your financial caregiver. To me, that's skeptical. They're only in it for the money. They're not in it for your best interest. So again, the financial caregiver doesn't have to take over. You're still responsible for all of your financials. They're only there to help you in the event that you cannot do it for yourself.
Oh, okay. Now, would it affect any of the insurance? Because I know when people work like on a board of directors someplace, like for condo associations, sometimes you have to take out extra insurance because somebody could sue you, or...
That's different than a financial caregiver. Financial caregiver that I'm talking about is for your own personal finances. What you're referring to there is called directors and officers insurance, that you serve on a board, and if somebody who's a member of the community doesn't like the decisions the board makes, that person could sue the board. That's different than a financial caregiver. That's a whole nother presentation on insurance coverage.
Oh, okay. Do you find a lot of people are selecting like a financial caregiver?
Yes.
Or yes?
Yes, I recommend it highly. I have seen too many cases. I've been doing this in banking for more than 25 years. And the scams that I have seen some of my older customers get taken with. I just ran into a complete stranger in the post office on Saturday, who the postmaster, thank God, realized what was happening. She was getting ready to send $3,000 to someone who told her she won $50,000 and she had to send $3,000 for taxes, right?
Oh,
so not everybody is as savvy to identify those things. So you always want to make sure that somebody you're choosing, again, is up and educated on what's happening out there. There are too many people, unfortunately, want to take advantage of our older generation. It's an unfortunate state of affairs, but having somebody in place, especially if you've had any kind of health issues, if you think you might have health issues that you might get sick and have to be hospitalized for a couple of days, or even you're just not feeling up to it and you want somebody else to help you, you should name somebody as your caregiver.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, Sylvia, thank you for your question. That was a good question, actually. All right, anyone else? Last opportunity before we let Holly sign off. All right, well, I am recording this presentation, and we'll put the link out there should you want to watch it again, of course, or share it with someone. And we thank all the participants today for joining us. Most of all, we thank you, Holly.
Well, thank you. And my contact information is in the chat box. If you did have a question that you didn't want to ask on a public forum, you can always reach out and call me directly or send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
Oh, Holly, that's very generous. Thank you for that offer. Okay. All right, everyone, we have lots more presentations coming down the pike before the year is out. So again, thank you for joining us, and everyone stay well out there. And Holly, much appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.